this show on the road. Welcome, everybody. So glad to have you all here. So again, I'm Dr. Maureen Hayes from Galveston, Texas, and I'm joined by the regulars, Jim and Ann Glenn from San Antonio, Texas. As you know, Jim is our big money man, and Ann is his beautiful wife, who is a personal trainer and nutritionist. So she's got a whole lot of information on that. And of course, we have our Dr. Lee Osler, who is a dentist extraordinaire from the state of Washington, and also the author of Too Many Books to Count, which is absolutely amazing. And I'm sure there's another one in the works. Excuse me. And tonight we have sorry. We have a fan. I don't know what's stuck in my throat. There was a frog outside. I think he jumped in. In any case, we have a fan favorite here tonight, Dr. Carolyn Hoffman, who we have had so much trouble getting her back on this show. And people are always clamoring for her to come on and give more information all the way from Virginia. She just has a wealth. She's a GI expert, a gut expert, skin expert. She's run a skin clinic, just has so much information that she can share with us. So without further ado, Dr. Carolyn, come on and share with us. So glad to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome, as usual. It's always fun to be back with you. We obviously have a lot to get on with tonight, which is going to be fun. I love sharing this space of Redox. I think I often say on webinars that I'm doing that this, to me, is the single most influential technology that I have ever had the privilege of working with. And if that doesn't mean that you don't kind of get the sense that this is somewhat important, then I guess we're not doing our job. But I hope by the end of it that you will kind of feel like I did when I really got to understand this, that this is the foundation of everything. And this is as important as the food that we eat and the air that we breathe and the water that we drink and the exercise that we do for our muscles. It's up there with making sure that we stay alive in a healthy way. My background is naturopathy, so this sits perfectly with the principles of the fact that the body is designed to heal and it is not designed to promote sickness. And we are going to talk about the root of why it does get in this space of promoting sickness, because it gets out of this beautiful space of being in a redox balance.
Right. Very good point.
All right, too much dead time. Give us your story.
An invitation for you to jump in, or is it? How about a medical disclaimer first, Jim?
Yeah, Lee.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to ASEA 5, Redox 5. We do need to represent ourselves as independent associates for a company named ASEA Global, marketing in the worldwide space now a product for cellular health. It is a supplement, and therefore we do not make any claims to treat, diagnose, or cure any medical disease or disorder. With that said, Carolyn, come on in and again, tell us how you got here.
How did I get here?
How did you get here? How did you learn about this? You said it was the single most significant health technology you've come across, which is saying something for someone who's coming from the direction you're coming from, which, I mean, you live in the world of natural solutions. So for you to make that statement, I think that's significant. Tell us a little bit about that.
Hey, if you don't mind, real quick, Karen, can you kind of just give your background of what, because you started off a little bit different over in the UK. And so, but explain that journey, if you don't mind, then hop into your ASEA journey, please. Because I think it's rather fascinating.
As a ballerina.
Your background.
Yeah. So my background is professional ballet, also teaching professionally all over the world. I did that until just after the age of 40. But I'd had a major car accident a couple of years before, and that was beginning to really cause challenges with my life, to the point that they thought that they were going to intervene with operation. And I guess I have to be fortunate to say that they decided that that was not a solution, but they didn't have a solution for me. They just said, you'll have to live in pain for the rest of your life and you'll have to live with physical therapy forever. And it was like, great, I don't have a life. I was struggling all the time with just constant challenges. And I was told really that continuing to dance would continue to deteriorate the injury to my spine. So fast forward in that next 7 years of struggling and knowing how to handle myself and really just constantly looking for some degree of natural health support, but I wasn't into the real space of the nutritional side at that point. I mean, I was doing trigger point massage therapy, which is not remotely relaxing. That really digs into all of those pain points. That was my introduction to massage. And neurological chiropractic was kind of the people that were keeping me moving, but I wasn't improving. I was just really maintaining life at a miserable level. Somewhere along the line, my husband had a client who actually worked in the OR department at UVA. We moved from New York down to Virginia. And this person was into a different approach to alternative health. Shared that with my husband purely because my husband's a CPA and was doing his taxes. But he ended up with an issue with his wrist that often a lot of people get, and that helped him transition. So he was super excited about the fact that there was something that could help him. I was, on the other hand, incredibly skeptical because I came from this allopathic background where it was PTs who were my things. Orthopedics as dancers were who we spent our time with. And so I thought everybody was a little nuts, frankly. But as I watched my mother have some amazing health challenge issues resolved, and over 9 months of saying, well, maybe I'll try some of this stuff, but I really don't believe it, my life turned around. And at that point, I really realized that the body is designed to heal. It's not designed to promote sickness, but we get out of sync. And it's the challenge is, how do we find what the body needs? So I delved deep into natural health because if I could help myself, then I was a natural teacher and I wanted to help other people. And so I started this long journey of going into natural health. As a naturopath, it's really just a title that encompasses the principle that the body knows how to heal itself. And Lee, you often talk about the inner doctor, right? And that we are an inbuilt, naturally healing mechanism. But we get offline, combination of age, a combination of the lifestyle that we live that contributes to damaging the body and weakening its ability to do what it knows how to do. So we get these increases in oxidative stress, which speaks directly to what we're talking about here and how we can help the body in a natural, non-invasive, non-drug-based method support its own natural ability to do the things it's supposed to do, to have this innate conversation about healing. And so I embarked on learning, and I'm just like, I was all over the shop trying to find places to go to, working with some really extraordinary people. And then, of course, as I was sharing information with people, people would say to me, well, how do you know what you know? My background as a dancer was also anatomy and physiology. That was part of my training. And so, we had 3 years of anatomy and physiology with the Royal Free Department. And so it was part of who I was as applied kinesiology and mechanics and body stuff was kind of always there, but I never thought of it in terms of the natural healing perspective. So I layered on that, and then over time became a board certified naturopathic doctor, got super excited about digestive enzymes and gut health, which is redox signaling. All of those activities are in that redox field, but nobody was talking about that as the title. And then QEG neurointegration. So for me, it's lots of modalities that I pull together. ASEA came into my space in 2011, but I was busy working with another NRF2 product at that point, and so I wasn't remotely interested because I got kind of excited working with the doctors directly who were involved in that, and we were applying it to our practice. And I was in partnership with someone who was the medical director for a lot of other facilities, so we co-partnered our practice together. And it was really interesting, and I want to mention this because that product out there had a lot of supposed valid science, right? A lot of studies. And I was kind of caught up in, well, there's a lot of these studies. And we used that product in our practice, but honestly, we never really saw much outcome at all. And I think what is really interesting is we know that our science directly talks about the NRF2. That's how we generate our internal antioxidants naturally within the human body. And we can upregulate through this technology that we'll discuss at more depth. And we can make our own internal antioxidants 800% more effective with glutathione. That's the master antioxidant. We can also increase our production of it within the cells. And we see that from our studies that are coming out of Western Australia. And I had my husband on this. My husband has suffered for about 22 years with exercise-induced breathing issues. So in that 22-year experience of diving into nutrition and all sorts of other things, homeopathy, you name it, we used it with him. But I never really helped him overcome that to the point where it really truly impacted his daily living. He would have a short-term inhaler, a long-term inhaler. When we were at its worst, we had oxygen tanks, we had nebulizers, and if we couldn't keep things under control, it would be a 911 call and sometimes would actually be admitted. So fast forward 7 years later, ASEA Redox passes my space again, and I nearly missed it the second time. Don't do that. Pay attention, right? Because sometimes we think things seem a little weird when they're not something that everybody knows about. And we miss it because we often seem to believe, well, if it was real, I'd know about this. And I'm not certain why we think that, because science and life is just developing at such a rate. There's no way we can possibly know everything. So we're going to miss stuff and just be open to the fact that there are things that we don't know about. Passed my way again. But at the time, I guess it was just the way life was meant to be. Dr. David Silverman was coming into my town in Charlottesville, Virginia, to do a talk. I like to learn, so I wasn't committed to the notion that I was going to embrace this product, but I was curious to go and sit in the back. And obviously there, we talk about the fact that when you have something that is so unique and impacts so many people, there is an opportunity there that comes alongside that if you wish to be someone who loves to support other people and share interesting information. But I wasn't going because I wanted the business side of it. I had my practice and I sat in the back, kind of slithered down into the seat as much as I could and hoped that nobody would notice I was there and I wouldn't be asked any questions. And I took a couple of friends with me because I knew that if I liked this information and I thought it was significant, I was going to obviously start to talk to other people about what I'd just seen. And I thought, it's much easier if they come with me. My couple of close friends come with me. If they like what they see, they've already got it from the horse's mouth. I don't have to try to repackage that information that's brand new to me, and I'll get it all messed up anyway. So I took some friends. One of my friends was one of those who asked a lot of questions, so I didn't have to ask anything, which was really good. But I watched with interest because those of us who know about the Renew 28, this is the topical application of what we're talking about, redox signaling molecules. These are molecules made within the human body. As we're sitting here, we're generating them anyway. We come into this world because of them. We will pass on when we stop making them. But the big gap between it, the fact is that we have a lot when we arrive and we have very little when we pass on. And this is the downhill slide that kind of goes with aging and increased inflammation. And we have this beautiful ability to now actually do something about it, to actually fill up that glass that's losing quantities and bio-replenish something that is natively within the human body. But the topical application is the kind of fun one because you can really feel very quickly how fast these very intelligent, fast-acting molecules want to go to work when you put them where there's something that maybe hurts or doesn't move, anything that's kind of changed in our life and bugs us. And so Dr. Silverman takes this, and as he talks about, we have this great way that if you measure something that hurts from a 0 to 10, and then you shake up the gel, which is the same as the liquid, and you take this in clear substance, as you can see, totally clear gel, and you apply it to wherever you're hurting, You'll see it's completely clear. It's already working. It's not about absorption. It's actually in contact and it's going to work, giving out its energy and doing things and bringing back online the conversation in the cells that are not functioning the way they should. It's really like booting up our computers and bringing them back online. That's what we do with the cells. And he would apply this 3 times in 5 minutes, wait 5 minutes, and then kind of pay attention to what changes you saw. I saw change after change after change in that event. But I think the key thing was there was the head coach for UVA's rowing department was there. And he got up and he talked about the fact that he'd been drinking this product, which, as Lee said, is not a medical product, right? So we're not going to diagnose, treat, and cure. We're just going to support the body to have a greater resource of what it naturally is producing, and therefore can help amplify the capacity of the body to recognize when there's a problem and get in and do what it knows how to do, which is heal. And he'd started drinking this. Now, this was someone who was on diabetic medication and was also on blood pressure medication. And he talked about his changes and how his doctors had titrated away those medications and he was no longer on them. And I thought that was really pretty significant for something that has no downside, no interaction with medication. Now, when I make the point that this is the single most influential product technology, it's because when we think about nutritional supplements, and that's something that Anne's very familiar with, and Maureen's wonderful at describing this product, for example, like the Life Max. But, you know, we all understand these. These have been around from the 40s onwards, 1940s, right? Supplements, materials that we ingest, the body breaks down and we deliver them out to a cell, the nutrients, hopefully from food, not synthetics, right, that actually support the body. But I think what we tend to get into is that we take the medical model, which is I have a symptom and there is a drug to suppress that symptom. And then people say, I don't really want to be on the drug. I'd like to do something natural. And they move to nutrition and then they think in the same way. Well, if I have, a blood pressure problem, maybe I can take a supplement that will help improve that. And they want to swap the drug for the nutrition and think that it should do the same thing immediately. Works very differently. Medicine pushes against the body. Nutrition supports to come up and supply what we need to do the work. But I found it fascinating that here we had something that didn't affect any medication, which was so unique, which is not the case with supplements. You can't say that. Herbs may be very powerful, foods may be very powerful, but they all have the capacity to interact with a drug and maybe stop it doing what a doctor needs it to do. And I think that's what's so cool, because I don't have any other product that I know in my field that I can say, if you're on medication, that's fine. Stay on your medication, baseline everything about your health, add this in, and then watch. What does your body do with it? Maybe your body picks up that extra redox and walks you back to a space where your body was capable of doing things before it lost all that redox. And so now maybe that's why he didn't need his blood pressure medication and he didn't need his blood sugar medication, because his body had higher resources to take him back to the space before a doctor said, you need a drug. And so it's this cool thing that I went into my practice and I just put this on everybody. That was my starting point, my personal validation, not certain what the heck I wanted to do with this bottle and all these other bottles. I certainly didn't want cases round, and that's what I love, is I don't have to handle it. The company handles it. Every customer in 35 countries gets this from the FDA facility to their door. I don't have to stock anything or be involved in it. And we have this wonderful 30-day money-back guarantee. But I tested it and came to build my own belief through this. And every client that walked in, I just said, do you have something that hurts? Right? Because I have a new product and I'm just trying this out. Can you give me feedback? I didn't pay judgment on it. I just wanted to watch and see what happened and decide, is there a place for this? Because it's not an analgesic.
Right.
And I just saw these remarkable changes. It did not matter what their issue, whether it was a client who was about to have a hip replacement and was at a level 8 of discomfort and went to a 0 in under 2 minutes. That blew me away. That was my first experience, right? Because it's not an analgesic. It's bringing back online those cells that are out of, they're dysregulated. They're in a state of dis-ease and they're yelling for help, which is why we have discomfort. And the body's not responding to that and solving the problem. It didn't matter whether it was congested sinuses that went from a 7 to a 4 in 10 minutes, whether it was a severe head discomfort where people like to get into the dark and take medication because they feel terrible. It didn't matter whether it was someone who walked in who had a broken toe that was really bruised and actually booked an appointment with their regular GP the following day for pain meds from their regular GP. But they went home with this. We put it on their toes and they went home with it. The small tubes, I sent them home with it. And they called me the following day and they said, well, the bruising's all gone and the discomfort's not there, so I cancelled my appointment with my GP. So the point about this, for those of you who are listening, is when we think in terms of this kind of thing, our traditional approach to natural health is, I have a liver problem, right? I need something for the liver. I have a cardiovascular problem. I need something to improve my heart health. We're very specific. When we do this, and why I say that this is the single most influential product technology I have, is because this is about how every cell in the human body, all 70 to 100 trillion of them, function to stay healthy, correct problems, replace old dirty cells, dead cells, diseased cells with nice healthy cells, and keep us in a space of optimal health. So everything is supported, and then the body is able to say, well, where do I need to boot up, right, and get things back online that are out of whack? So we don't have to be so specific about, well, will it help my creaky knees, or will it help my ability to focus better? It's going to support the body wherever the problem is, and then the body reveals what it needs to do with it.
Excellent. Since you're a gut expert and we know redox signaling helps anyone going through gut issues, can you tell what you've learned about the molecules that you've seen maybe in your practice helping the gut, as well include Source and the enzymes? You've got a great write-up on the enzymes in Source, and even Biome, which you were just holding. So talk about those components, how really all 4 of those can work on the gut.
Let me also cross-reference that. ASEA puts a lot of money into third-party validation and research. Why? Because we brought this technology to the space of science in the first place, right? The stabilization of these molecules, which are high active molecules. They've got a bunch of energy and they run around saying, where do I need to give this energy? Which cell needs it, right? They dispense it. And then I think this is the most perfect recycling process that goes on in the planet, because how are we making them? We're making them from the saline within our cells. It's breaking up those molecules, producing the redox, it's donating it, and it's recycling, and it just keeps on doing this. So you have this, this whole system, and there's nobody out there that can tell us about redox, because we created the market and we're still the only people here in this space. So that's what's so very unique. We can't really look to other people to know more about our technology, but in learning more about our technology and developing more about it, we actually have a lot of third-party validation to help us understand how we can develop other product technologies. And I love the double-blind placebo-controlled genetic study that we did in 2017 with Torrent Labs. That, I think, speaks volumes. Because anyone who knows about double-blind studies, right, you testing something and you have some theory about it, and you have a placebo group who don't know what they're getting, but they're not getting the actual thing that they're trying to test, and then you have a control group, and you compare the results to be able to understand what's actually happening. We had healthy, and this is kind of an interesting point, right? Healthy 35-year-olds who were the test group, and they checked their genetic signaling levels before they started on this product. It's interesting that they may have felt healthy, but their genetic signaling was starting to dial down, and that was proven in those blood Affymetrix array studies. So they put them on 8 ounces of the ASEA Redox for 8 weeks. They came back and repeated those tests at genetic signaling. 100% of the people on the product had a uniform 20 to 31% beneficial improvement in 5 genetic signaling pathways. 100%. So if you're sitting here tonight thinking, I wonder if this could help. Well, unless you aren't part of the human race, it can absolutely help, right? Because it's going to affect you in the same way that it affected them or me. What were those things that were important? And whether you're sick, whether you've got an issue, a chronic challenge, or whether you're just simply saying, I want to stay healthy and I want to prevent increase of oxidative stress, which we know creates more disease. And may I never know what I prevent because I'm going to be really focused on staying optimally strong. This improved the innate immune signaling system. We all need that to be online, right? Very strong. That's our major defense mechanism. If that's not alert and awake, then nothing much is happening. Inflammatory response. Now they talk about in the thing in relationship to exercise. Don't think about that as being an athlete, right? Simply living is exercise, right? Where we're generating oxidative stress by just being alive every day. But we all need a healthy response to inflammation. Otherwise, it would be like saying our fire department isn't going to turn up when we call 911 because we've got a fire. We need people to be able to put out the fire. We need our body to be able to respond and do the same thing at a cellular level. Cardiovascular health with vein elasticity, that would be pretty important, right? Flexible veins so that we don't have trouble and we can think and everything else. Hormone signaling with vitality and wellness. That's a really complex system that affects us all in so many ways, especially as we age. So that would be important too. But to your point about digestive enzyme production, it increased digestive enzyme production, and it also did the opposite side of it. Our inability to absorb food got improved. It counteracted that inability for absorption. So for me, in my practice, I'd have people on very specific enzyme protocols based on a lot of testing that we do. I will tell you that every single person who was on any enzyme formulation who started this product saw massive improvements in their gut health. We were able to reduce the number of enzyme supplements that they took. And as I think I see constantly in this use, whatever supplements you're taking, your body is better able to absorb and distribute the benefits of those supplements. So I think we need fewer supplements instead of keep overloading our poor bodies that haven't got the resources to do anything with it, which is really kind of like handicapping a racehorse, right? You want it to run fast, but you keep on piling things on it. And I think we take too many supplements. And the reason that happens and doesn't work is because we don't have the labor, which is the redox, to actually make use of any of those things. So in short, I saw them take fewer supplements and take less of each of those supplements because of better utilization. You mentioned the source, which is the only one I haven't got sitting on my desk. I think a lot of people might think of that as a kind of multivitamin. Thank you. It's this broad spectrum of all the things that we need in terms of the vitamin world. Everything that we do is organic, whole food, non-GMO. And those things are really important because in my world, we know very clearly I have food-based enzymes because the body is only designed to consume real food. It's not designed to consume anything that's a synthetic version, right? That is a negative form of nutrition. It's a stressor. You weaken the cells. You don't give vitality to the cells, and you can't bring that resonant frequency up if you're throwing cheap synthetic supplements at the body. It's like going to go to your pantry and constantly pulling out of your pantry supplies until you run out. So there's a lot of downsides to that. So I love the quality of what we have. So you have all of the spectrum, but you have the important cofactors. You have things like healthy oils, which are essential for us to be able to deliver oil-based, fat-based vitamins, for example. We have minerals, which are cofactors in this whole thing of activity and energy, and totally essential for us to absorb vitamins. We have those are land-based minerals and sea-based minerals for the different components, but it also incorporates in there, as you mentioned, there are a nice formulation of enzymes. Why is that necessary? Because we need to make sure that we can break down those nutrients and really deliver them to the tissue. And if we don't have that really good, effective digestive health function with enzymes, which we don't from 27, it's a bad state of affairs. This is this whole inbuilt slide that goes on, right? But it's why, by middle age, people are complaining about gut health issues. It's not that you've actually got too much acid, you've got too little acid, and so lots of things don't work. So that's my kind of thought
Great.
on that.
Appreciate it. That's
Hey, Carolyn, you've talked in the past about if somebody's dealing with an issue, the amount of time they've dealt with that issue need to stay on the molecules that long to, so the longer you've been on, the longer you need to stay on the seed. But can you also explain how you recommend people start on the molecules?
Yeah, I mean, we need to think about what we're doing, really, whether you're doing this, whether you're kind of supporting the body with something literally physical, because these are materials, or whether you're coming in and doing this, which I think is the best place to start, because this is like building a house. This is the foundation. If you have a solid foundation, then you can cherry pick what kind of nutrients and what style of house you want to build, right? What things need to go into that house, so to speak. So I get this in place and everything else is going to work better. You asked me about I'm lost myself.
Well, I mean, everybody's dealing with an issue. So if somebody's been dealing with an issue for 10 years.
Timeline. Yeah, the timeline.
Yeah.
Right. So
setting correct expectations is
correct
really
expectations are important, right? We're swapping out old cells for new ones, right? We're bringing in a higher vibrational frequency. We're up-regulating the cells. We do about 25% of our blood per month. Right, but that doesn't mean we change everything by the end of the time we get to 4 months. If you think of a fishbowl, right, and you took out 25% of it and you put 25% new water in there, it wouldn't mean that you're going to pick out the other 25% and so on next time you change it. So, it takes the body time to rotate and bring online a higher level of frequency so that it has extra energy to donate to healing. So that's why we need to be patient with the body. It's not a drug. It's not going to hit you on the face and knock you over and suppress the body. It's going to support the body. So let's be sensible, whether it's this or anything else. We're not going to if you've had a problem for 5 or 10 years, you cannot realistically expect your body, it doesn't matter what supplement you're taking, you cannot expect your body to solve all those problems in 1 month or 1 week or one day. I mean, we get unrealistic expectations from people in this field very often about what they think their body should be able to do. So if we start people on here, our general recommendation, and this can vary a little bit depending upon whether you're on a lot of medication, we might have a slightly different kind of step into that, especially with heart meds. Although we don't have that interaction, it's just because they tend to be more toxic. And so we would want to help the body clean at a slower rate sometimes. But we'll recommend maybe 4 ounces a day. So 2 ounces in the morning, 2 ounces in the evening for the first week. At the end of that week, if you've benchmarked everything about your health, go in and re-benchmark and pay attention. Has anything changed? We will know that 10 to 15% of people are going to jump up excited because enough cells have already given them some extra energy and they're starting to feel, maybe like I did, sharper mental focus, maybe more sustained energy. And I was already energetic, but it was clearly still different. So those are very typical. Maybe better sleep is something that we're going to notice more quickly. Those are very common. If you haven't seen anything shift, we often suggest let's super saturate those cells a little quicker. Remember, it's like that glass, right? The glass is going down at 1% per year from puberty, 10% per decade. So let's fill that glass up a little faster, because then it's like renovating with a larger crew in your house. You're going to see those changes take place quicker. And we will often suggest go to the 8 ounces a day and keep tracking your changes. At the end of the first month, maybe you're now really excited because a lot of things have come on board, and you can maybe play around and find what the sweet spot is for you to maintain your health. But maybe you might be somebody who needs to be out as far as 3 months or beyond, right? Because you've got sufficient amount of damage below the surface, sufficient amount of work that the body's got to do before you're going to really see how much repair has been achieved. But we do know that 90% of us are really pretty excited at 90 days in, and this is not a one and done. And it is just not a one and done. You're going to find the longer that you're on this, there are more and more layers of healing that the body moves through. It will prioritize what's important for your body, which sometimes isn't always the thing that we think is important, right? We might have creaky knees, and I've had people with really bad knee situations. It's maybe taken them 4 or 5 months, but then there's been some big revelation of a totally different type of health challenge that they weren't focusing on, right? Because the body is innately intelligent. It knows where the biggest priority is, and this is what we call non-targeted. In other words, we give it, and the body makes its own decision, and it says, turn left, you need to go here, or turn right, you need to go there. And so just know, as we often say, it cannot not work.
Right.
It sounds like a weird phrase, right? Cannot not work.
Again.
It cannot not work. Now, what does that mean? When we did blood serum markers, 100% of people had blood serum markers change. Again, if you're not a human being, then maybe it might not work for you, right? But if you're part of the human race, then you're not any different that way. The same with that genetic study, 100%. Our studies out of Western Australia have kind of thrown them for a loop because they've repeated them 9 times because the results have been the same every time, and that doesn't happen in science. And so they're saying, well, why is this? And they keep doing these things to try to work out if they're making some mistakes. But it's not. This cannot not work. It's in you already. You're just re-amplifying the quantity that you have.
Carolyn, can you reiterate the importance of the glutathione that we always hear? And again, I'm not anything medical, but I've always heard that glutathione is the most powerful. Why? What does it do?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, when I was doing some research in that, you'll notice, I think it's something like 52 known diseases are tied to a lack of glutathione. That's scientifically proven. It's also scientifically proven that the older we are, the less we have. It is our master antioxidant. In other words, we're generating this master antioxidant all the time. It's the one that helps filter all of the toxins in the liver. It's really powerful in combating inflammation, all of those things. We want to make sure that that stays strong. And our studies, the earlier studies, show that whatever amount of glutathione we have, that became 800% more effective. Now, some people will say, well, I take a glutathione supplement. Well, we know that at a molecular level, they don't really cross the cell membrane. They're not well absorbed. You don't really get a lot of what you're taking. And for me as a digestive health specialist, I'm also thinking in the background, well, how old are they? Can they even digest? Do they have enough pH in their stomach? I mean, there's all these things that just because you swallow something doesn't mean it gets to the tissue. And that's the big gap very often, and why people don't always see benefits from what they're doing. So we have this huge power in supporting our major antioxidant that we know as we age gets less, but they also know that the older and the sicker we are, the less we have. And there's a lot of connections in science is saying that as we become older and sicker, we're less able to recycle and really increase this production.
Hey, Lee, when you started on Redox, your wife had what would you call it? A detox. And it wasn't too pleasant. So when people start on this, we've had people that go, hey, whoa, it's making me not feel well. That must not be good for me. I will stop. Can you please, and then Carolyn, please hit on that as well. Lee?
Yeah, that was a significant thing for my wife, which was the second thing that really captured my attention. The first was how well she was doing initially. And then it kind of rebounded, and we realized, after some consultation with very smart people like Dr. Maureen Hayes, that what was really happening was that she was beginning to detox. And what that means is that when you spend years or however long in your life not doing well, the metabolic and environmental toxins that are created or that you come across in living become stored away mostly in fat tissue. These are fat soluble molecules that wind up, in all of your fat soluble tissues in your brain and your adipose tissue. And they're just kind of tucked away because the body or the cells themselves, lack the ready capability of being able to chelate them or to excrete them. So you store them. Well, all of a sudden, when you reverse all that and you begin these natural processes of detoxing or just having your cells work properly, all of a sudden they become liberated, and now they're out in action. And so you've got to deal with those, and that's not always a happy moment. You feel sick, you feel foolish, you have some discomfort, and you just have to work your way through that, or acclimate yourself through that, or compensate yourself through that and get past that period of time while your cells are doing the dumping. They're just taking out the garbage is really what's starting to happen. And once you make it through that, then things start to settle down. And as your cells continue to work right, they can take out the garbage every day rather than waiting for garbage day on the weekends, as it were. So that, to me, that's how I explain that.
Yeah. Carolyn, anything to that?
Yeah, it's a natural process of heat. I mean, it is what we're meant to do. And I always think about it's like a fence, right? You're on this side of the fence and you want to get to the other side of the fence, so you've got to climb the fence. Now, having said that, Lee's wife obviously had a significant detox. I will say that with this particular product, I say far fewer major detoxes than you see with supplements, physical supplements. And I believe that is because Redox naturally supports the second phase of detox as well as the third. And that's where things don't happen with supplements. You take a liver detox supplement, it'll throw all the junk out of the cells. And I love physical and visual analogy. So I always say to people, well, toxins are really like maximum security prisoners. They're locked up in their cells. They're not really too much of a trouble, and we may not feel that brilliant, but we don't kind of know it. It's like being anesthetized to this lesser vitality of life when we're that toxic. But you open the doors, these prisoners are now out in the corridors. They're actually more violent and a problem out than they were in. And that, in a sense, is what's happening in the human body. We open the cells, we dump the junk. Now it's actually more toxic, and the phase 2 liver should come in and neutralize it. And if you can't neutralize it quickly enough, that's where people feel the Herxheimer reaction, right? The flu. But we need to think about the fact, and this is something I think we just disconnect ourselves from, right? People have a cough, they take a cough suppressant. Right? Or they have a runny nose or runny eyes. They take a drug to stop that from happening. The cough is a detox process. If you've got something on your lungs and your body says it shouldn't be there, we are designed to cough it up. So we're suppressing our natural detox process when we take things that stop us from coughing, or stop the eyes from running, or stop the nose from running, because it's the way the body is trying to excrete the toxins. So we apply it and we go, oh, I don't want to feel uncomfortable. Okay, so don't get well. That's like,
right.
It's like get your big boy panties on and recognize, if you want to get well, you might have to go through a little bit of a struggle, but it's worth it, because if you're being bombarded with things all the time and your cells are down regulating, you don't really have a sense of how amazing it is when you can get into a vital state with every cell feeling fully charged and having all the energy it needs to do. That is a state of freedom. It's a lot of lightness to the body. Mental capacity comes back online. I mean, it's a whole different thing. A healthy cell is 70 to 100 milliwatts in energy. A cancer cell is 20 milliwatts. Hello, big difference. right? We talk about pH, there's a big deal about hydrogen. Hydrogen is a single redox molecule. We help promote the breadth of complete response, not just kind of channel down one lane with what we're doing here. But what is pH? It's potential hydrogen. That scale from 0 to 14, is where energy sits. For me, when I'm doing 24-hour urine analysis, which tells me everything about the chemistry of the inside of the human body and what we're doing with the food, perfect health is not to do with a neutral or an alkaline, where everybody goes crazy about alkaline water, which stops you from digesting food, by the way. But it's 6.4. Your urine and your saliva should both be 6.4. Why? Because if you do 6.4 and 6.4, that's 12.8. Take that from 14, which is the maximum potential hydrogen. That's the energy left for healing. You can't heal if you're out of range. Right. Redox helps us come back online and get back into that homeostasis, which is health.
Exactly. Don't you think?
Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to stay on the detox subject real quick. And don't you think if a person drinks enough regular water, they will be able to lessen that detox phase? Yeah. Half of their body weight, they should already be drinking plenty of pure water. But if they're at all concerned about detox, which is, like, as you said, a good thing, they should up their water intake so they can discard whatever we're trying to push out.
And they should move, because water fluids move through connective tissue. So if you're stationary, you're not really moving. That's another way in which we hydrate. I'm not. I'm going to differ with you on the half the body weight, because it's actually the dyne rate of the water that matters and the absorption. I would encourage people to incorporate things like chia seeds with their water, because that changes the structure and pulls it into the cells and keeps you hydrated. You don't need to. A lot of people can drink a huge amount of water, but it's not getting in there because it's just flushing through. So there's a whole other thing behind that. I know it's become a thing, but we have to remember where money drives messages, and Perrier needed to sell more water. That's where that drinking stuff came from.
Yeah.
Hey, Maureen, can you touch base real quick on why we don't name diseases and why we don't name conditions, please? Because I saw a comment, someone mentioned a disease, and why can't we do that?
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to what Dr. Lee said in the very beginning, we're not a medical company. It's not a medical product. We're not here to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent anything. We're here to empower the body, like Dr. Carolyn has been speaking about. This is a bioreplenishment agent that empowers the cells to heal themselves. So the magic is happening in the body. We're just giving it the tools to do it. So to stay compliant, because this product, this technology is known to the FDA. The original technology, they were trying to get classification as a new drug. And so they were going through the different trials, and the FDA was aware of it. And unfortunately, with what they were doing, there's something called an LD50, or lethal dose 50, where half of the animals that you give it to perish. They couldn't determine that with this product. The more they gave to the animals, the better the animals did. In fact, there was like a note somewhere that the only way to hurt an animal with this was to like dunk its head into a little bucket of yeah, it's terrible. And that gold stand, I mean, that LD50 is sort of archaic, but it's still there. So we don't talk about diseases because we're not a treatment, and we don't want to kind of raise the hackles of the FDA and look like we're making any claims to treating or curing anything. We're just supporting the body. So it's really important that people just talk about the symptoms, talk about the challenge, don't name the disease, because we want to be able to continue to share this with everybody who has a need for it.
Maureen, with your background, and Lee and Carolyn the same, did you ever think you would see anything like this, that you drink a saltwater based thingamajigger and your body starts to fix itself? I mean, did you like my terminology there? It's kind of like being a negative poo-poo head. But did you ever
you were going to get that in. Yeah.
I know, no. And then suck it up, Buttercup, when you go through detox. But did you ever think you would ever see anything like this that would work on everything, and not just us, plants and
Doesn't-
animals. I mean, it just seems so ludicrous. It seems so, and if it wasn't for Carolyn and Lee and you and me and us having an experience, which kind of want to wrap up on that, but did you ever think you would ever see something this basic do this much? Ever?
No, the only thing, the analogy that I used to use, because when I didn't know the science, when I first got involved 12 years ago, the science was very scant. And so when I was explaining it to people, I'd be like, it's kind of like in the 1800s, if somebody came into your ER, if they even had them back then, and they were pale and listless and very weak and had a very high respiratory rate and high heart rate. Back then, what they used to do is bloodlet, right? To let the evil spirits out and all. If they saw somebody hang a bag of red stuff and run it into the body, and all of a sudden the person pinked up and their respiratory rate and their heart rate came down and they, looked more alive again, people would have thought that was black magic. Well, that's called a blood transfusion. And what we're doing really is like a blood transfusion at the cellular level. We're putting in these molecules that our cells are looking for to get the job done, and they do the best that they can do without them. And so often that's when we're seeing different challenges. We see that miscommunication between the cells. And that's why, we talk about autoimmune challenges doing so well when you get a full complement of these and the cell communication, the cell to cell communication is corrected. So yeah, no, when I first heard it and I heard it was made from salt water, probably, all three of us, Dr. Lee, Dr. Caroline, and I are all on the medical board, but I will tell you that all three of us probably said, no, thank you. Well, I know I did. This cannot be right. You're not, this is a scam.
Did you have an experience in the beginning with the gel?
Yeah.
Or they didn't have the gel when you started?
We didn't have the gel. My sister had an experience with we have spray bottles. I always have them everywhere. So we would put the liquid in these little spray bottles and you use those. And I probably shouldn't tell the story about my sister, but it was pretty amazing. But it took 6 weeks drinking the product for me to notice anything, or for anybody in our family. Now we're rule followers, so we were just going by the 2 ounces twice a day.
Yeah.
And really the function of it is it has to do with time versus amount. So, I tell people, I like if they're over 45, 50, and Carolyn, you can jump in there, Lee, you as well, but they're already at a deficit because these are made in the mitochondria. We have a deficit of mitochondria as we age, or if we're under stress, we get mitochondrial dysfunction. So by the time you're about 50 years old, you've got a deficit and you have an imbalance. And I'm trying to overcome that quickly. So I like for people to double up at least for their first month, maybe even a little bit more, depending on what challenges they're dealing
Okay,
with.
when do you have them double up, Maureen? How much time into their starting? If they start today, when would you recommend a doubling?
You know what? Because I come from a traditional medical background, I probably go a little slower than other people. I will have them on 2 ounces twice a day, maybe even less if they're elderly or if they're small. 2 ounces twice a day, with making sure they're staying hydrated, making sure all of the lines of elimination are open so that they can start moving that debris out. And probably for about 2 or 3 days, as long as they're not having too much of a rebalancing, then I'll have them double back up.
Yeah.
Do you ever have anybody not take it late at night? Because we've had some people that had a radical boost of energy and they stayed up all night cleaning the house.
Yeah, that was me. Probably the cleanest my house has ever been is when I first started on it. And y'all, I can go to bed with a cup of coffee. I mean, I've had so much caffeine in my life, but when I first got on this product, I couldn't take it past 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or I was like buzzing all night long. It was kind of great. But now I drink it. I keep it at the bedside.
Well, your body will adjust
Yeah.
and start to straighten things out.
Carolyn, I love the comment you made about this supporting the body in the healing versus those that choose medication. There's inevitably a side effect. And I just love being able to share this with anyone, whether they are health conscious and just want to stay healthy, stay proactive so they don't have to worry about the future things showing up. But, like Jim now is off over 500 pills that he used to take every month. So what a major difference now his body is able to heal, where before he just relied on whatever pills somebody was giving him. So I just love how you shared that earlier, that this supports the healing versus, medication. That's just going after, whatever they throw a symptom on.
I love
Carolyn,
how
you said,
there's with the British accent.
Oh, yeah.
I can listen to you all night, Carolyn.
Yes.
well, you're
It's brilliant.
just a wealth of,
That's great.
you're just
Yeah.
such a wealth of knowledge. But I can't get over the fact, Carolyn, that in the beginning is that you sampled it, you felt it, you didn't believe it, you thought it was crazy, but you sampled it, and I think that's the key to how we share this is what Jerry White calls experiential marketing. Just give people an experience. And how would you explain that if that hurts and I put the stuff on it and it doesn't hurt, but I've had other people that go, I did it here, my foot stopped hurting. I can't explain that, but it's like, well, that's what happens when your cells can communicate. And we've got about 2 minutes left. I don't want to delay the start of Danny Doyle's show. So how do you explain that?
Well, we are an interconnected system. I mean, cells are not all isolated. They're a community. And that's the beauty of it. I think of it as like a spider web. A spider sits on one side of the web and a fly lands on the other. It doesn't have to walk around there to know that it's there. It feels it across the network. Our cells are the same, right? So when you put this, now I had this with someone, just quickly, someone who was trying to avoid a knee surgery. The chiropractic family, the wife had a problem. She couldn't bend her knee and she was trying to avoid going for surgery. She was in very tight jeans. We were in a public environment. I couldn't put them on her knee at all. So I said, she was impatient. She wasn't even kind of willing to stand around for the 3 times in the 5 minutes piece. We had a couple of minutes, right? So I took this and I put it on her neck, right? We know that, why? Because we can communicate, it gets into the carotids and the vagus nerve and, put it in the back, and all the meridians that are up and down the body are going to communicate. So I put it on her and I didn't even do 3 times in 5 minutes. I did apply, and she was very impatient. We managed 2 minutes, I think, between us, and I took a photo of how much she could flex her knee, and 2 minutes later, complete difference in range of motion, right? Because the body is communicating all over. We're not isolated pieces of information. So yeah, that is what's so cool. My daughter had a shoulder op, major reconstructive shoulder, and she was covered up with all of the ice packs and everything else. We started putting it on the arm below where the skin is and anywhere in the neck, because it's then going to communicate through that space. This is just communication at its most functional. This is the operating system of the human body and how it tells everything what to do. That's what a redox molecule is, switching on and off switches and making sure communication happens. And when we don't have as much of it, stuff doesn't occur.
Exactly.
Wrap it up, Lee.
Yep. Oh, you're on mute, Lee.
This has been fun to have Carolyn back with us again. It's been a little while. To those who are new to this, this maybe sounds like magic words. Redox. What is redox? What's the science there? It stands for reduction oxidation. It's the movement of electrons. It's what manages, regulates, stimulates, manipulates the pathways. That's what communication is that we're regulating defensive as well as offensive pathways that regulate cellular function. And when the cells function properly, then good things come about. When they don't function properly, then we need medicines to intervene and suppress the symptoms that come from that. And so it's, again, enjoyable to have Carolyn with her unique perspective to be a part of this and to have to be on with Dr. Maureen Hayes and Jim and Ann. Thank you, everybody. And as Jim would say, get back to the person that invited you to learn more about this. Don't run off to Amazon or some other ne'er-do-well places. Get with ASEA. They're the originals.
Thank you.
Right.
And for all the animals that are paying attention, invite your humans to watch next week. We have Dr. Marty and Beth Wolford on next week, and it's always fun when we have them. So with that, guys, thank you again. The recording will be up at Redox Matters within the hour or so. Please feel free. We're always here on Fridays, almost every Friday through the year. Invite people to come join us. We are paying it forward. We thank you. We love you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Get back to the one
Thanks.
right on. Thank y'all.
Have a
Thanks,
good
everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Go to
Bye.
Doyle, 850-850-8888. 850-850-8888.
Wow.
Danny Doyle is phenomenal. Go watch him. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye, y'all. Have a
Bye.
great weekend.
Bye.